Last month, we talked about Nextcloud working with other European developers to develop Office as an alternative to Onlyoffice, and this really irritated Onlyoffice. Well, there's some updates to this. Thanks for checking out this video by Switched Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below. So we did talk briefly about this about a month ago in Onlyoffice versus Nextcloud, where Onlyoffice ended up dropping any support and working with Nextcloud other than maintaining the connection, allowing people to still use Onlyoffice within Nextcloud. So they're still allowing that, but they've stopped working friendly with them because what Nextcloud and other developers in the European Union wanted is there's been this big push towards European sovereignty. And their allegation is that Onlyoffice is effectively a Russian company. Although their main offices, I think they have offices in London and Latvia, or at least Latvia. So they're saying that they're not. But Nextcloud also said they don't work nicely with outside developers. Everything tends to remain in-house, and they said it is difficult working with them. So because Onlyoffice is based on the GPL3 license, they decided to fork it into EuroOffice so that they could say that, yes, we are now controlling this particular source code, we can modify it, and this will be a way for European companies to have an option to have digital sovereignty within the EU, which is something that has been on the EU's target plan for a long time. And everything would be fine, except this kind of made Onlyoffice a little butthurt, because they really wanted people to maintain that, say in there somewhere like in an about menu that this is a fork of Onlyoffice. And the problem is that the GPL license doesn't actually require them to do that. This is even of the opinion of the guy who wrote the license. So you can see all of those fun, dirty details inside of this video, which we will have linked in the video cards, or you can just look it up. It's Onlyoffice versus Nextcloud on my channel. But what happened is there has been an update on Onlyoffice, and they brought a number of really nice changes to the Onlyoffice application. But among these changes is an update to the license. And this is exactly to take aim at the developers of Nextcloud and things. But what they have actually created is they've created an unenforceable thing that basically says you can't fork our stuff because you're not allowed to use our trademark, but you have to include our trademark. I don't know what's going on. And I said in that previous video that I will try and be as unbiased here as possible, but Onlyoffice threatened me once. I got the documents to prove it. It's hilarious. They did not like that I was pointing out that Onlyoffice at that time, I don't know if it still does, but at that time, Onlyoffice made a lot of connections to, I think it was Google and Amazon. You'd have to check that video, just by launching it, not trying to do anything online. And I did that video and looked at that on Wireshark in response to another a huge privacy evaluation company that said, yeah, there's a couple of challenges here. And what I ended up telling Onlyoffice is, you know, I am fundamentally reporting on what somebody else said, so ask them to correct their changings, and I would be glad to update my video to reflect the changings that are there. But the problem is they couldn't do anything about it, and they can't do anything about me because guess what? Truth is always an antidote to such issues. And I showed my environment showing that, yes, if you're running Wireshark and you boot up Onlyoffice, it makes a lot of connections. You may not like that information going out there because it makes it look like you're not as focused on privacy as you would like your target audience to think. But at that same time, that's exactly what you're doing. So don't try sound effect me. I don't play nicely to that. So ultimately, though, Onlyoffice, I mean, it's not a bad office suite. I don't want to discourage you from using it if you find it useful. I just found, and I did a lot of advanced testing, I just found LibreOffice is a far superior office suite to it, and it certainly fits my needs a whole lot better. So, you know, and the end result is I don't really promote a whole lot about what they're doing. thing. But at the same time, it is an Office suite that is still based on a GPL license. And so you can have some degree of confidence that you can audit the source code and that it's not doing nefarious things. What they did here is, according to it-connect.tech, they said they changed their licensing terms here. So they said it remains GPL 3, but additional terms have been added. If Onlyoffice is making these changes, it's no coincidence because of the spat between Onlyoffice, Nextcloud, and EuroOffice, because they copied the code without crediting Onlyoffice. Now, is that true? Did they copy their code without crediting it? Well, if you go to the EuroOffice GitHub page, they have an entire section about this is based on Onlyoffice, and we did this because of these multiple bullet points, which I rehashing went in fine detail. Then I got to thinking, was that always there, or did they add that later? So I went back and found the earliest incidents of this application being uploaded on the web archive, and this is from March 27th. And again, all that same stuff is still down here. So clearly they are giving credit in some degree. It just isn't necessarily positive credit. And I think that is what is bothering Onlyoffice. So what they're saying here is in March of 2026, the EU launched EuroOffice, a fork based on European Consortium, launched EuroOffice, a fork based on Onlyoffice's code to position EuroOffice as 100% sovereign Office suite. The consortium removed all visual traces of Onlyoffice's brand and logo. Why did they do that? It generally is a bad thing to copy code, even under a GPL, and keep all of the brand names and logos in there. You might keep a copy of that in the license. You might keep a copy of it somewhere. Now, what they're saying is that the update says any derived or modified version, such as EuroOffice, must include an easily accessible About section or equivalent in the interface. This page must clearly state that Onlyoffice is the original developer of the software. These conditions emphasize correct source attribution, copyright notices, and clear marking of modified versions, while licensing allows modifications. It does not grant the right to use Onlyoffice's trademarks, which are subject to the trademark policy. So, they want them to create something in the menus to point to Onlyoffice, but you're not allowed to use Onlyoffice trademarks. Do I have that right? This is actually the official update release from Onlyoffice. We have updated our licensing terms to ensure clarity and compliance. The software is licensed under the GPL 3 with additional terms that must be included in all copies and distributions. We'll get to that must in a moment. These terms emphasize proper attribution, copyright notices, and clear labeling of modified versions. While the license allows modifications, it does not grant the right to use Onlyoffice trademarks, which are governed by a separate trademark policy. So let's read that sentence again. It allows for modifications. It does not grant rights to use Onlyoffice trademarks. But you want them to include the Onlyoffice trademarks. Interesting. This is the trademark use policy. So the trademark use policy sets forth basically Onlyoffice is a trademark under Essentio Systems, SAA, the licensure. There's a scope and separation from copyright licensing. So software is or may be licensed under APL. So it is or may be. And it sounds like they're trying to get away from it. I don't know. Such licenses grant rights to software, but not grant rights to trademarks. Nothing in the policy limits or restricts any rights under otherwise. Okay, there's permitted uses. Strict compliance with this policy. You must use trademarks solely to identify the unmodified software. So here is, I'm distributing Onlyoffice. You must say it's Onlyoffice. You can't take an undistributed and say it's something else. To provide accurate or non-misleading attribution, to make nominative, descriptive, or use of the trademark solely for identification purposes. To be clear, I am simply identifying Onlyoffice. They want everything to be truthful, accurate, and non-deceptive. Okay. Be limited to what is reasonably necessary for identification, not form part of the name or branding for any part. which is kind of funny. Not use the name or branding of any part. Office. You put Office in the word. I'm sorry. Microsoft Office. Libre Office. Only Office. Euro Office. Oh, can't use that word Office. I don't know. I don't know. Modified forks derivatives. If you modify, fork, or create the software, you must not use a trademark, name, branding as a primary identifier. You must clearly and prominently and conspicuously indicate in a manner appropriate context, including user interfaces, documents, that your version is modified and not the original. Onlyoffice. You must not represent or imply your product or service is approved, endorsed, or officially associated, and you must not use trademarks in any manner that creates. So, did EuroOffice violate any of this? The answer is no, which is kind of interesting. Now, this is actually the additional terms that they put in. So everything above this is Onlyoffice's. This is the documents, the actual license on Onlyoffice. Everything above this additional terms is exactly the GPL 3. So here's what they say. Now, the GPL allows you to use to retain extra terms, but Section 10, let's go ahead and look at that right now. Section 10 actually basically says, yeah, the requirement to use extra terms is actually optional, effectively. So automatic licensing downstream, each time you convey a covered work, the recipient automatically receives a license from the original licenses, run, modify, propagate the work subject to the license. You are not responsible for enforcing compliance by third parties with the license. An entry transaction is a transaction inferring control of an organization, substantially all organization or substantially all sets of one, or subdividing an organization and merging organization, blah, blah, blah. So it goes on. You may not impose any further restrictions on the exercise of rents or affirmed on its license. So you may not impose a fee, license fee, royalty change, or any other requirements of the license. So Part 10 of this basically says, yeah, if you can put extra things in here, which makes sense in the event that your extra terms talk about legal stuff, if you have some legal notice or something in there as extra terms, those extra terms should be in there. But to say you have to do this with your software to identify us or pay us or anything else, that is not binding. You do not have to do that. And I checked that with people who are far more knowledgeable on these licenses than I am. So it says here, retention of notices and attribution pursuant to these sections. And we covered that in my previous video. You must retain all available copyright notices, license notices, warranty disclaimers, and attribution notices included in the program. So they're saying, hey, you have to include all of those copyright notices that this is copyright notice by Onlyoffice. You don't have to do that. Modification notice requirement. Modified versions must carry prominent notices stating they've been modified, including the dates of such modification, must clearly indicate they are based on the original Onlyoffice software. Again, they cannot force that on the people who fork their application. Where appropriate, legal notices and user interfaces, where the program modified version thereof includes interactive user interfaces. The required notices shall be displayed through a clearly accessible, prominently visible user interface feature in accordance with the requirement to present appropriate legal notices. Identify Onlyoffice as developer. I understand that the version in use may be modified and access the applicable license information. And of course, there's no rights to use the trademark. So they basically say you have to include section about Onlyoffice, but you're not allowed to use our trademark. Guys, Onlyoffice, just pull your program from the APL and release it as a proprietary software, because we all know that's what you want to do. We all know that's what you want to do. You are butthurt that somebody looked at what you're doing and said, we either don't like the code you're doing or precisely who you are, so we're going to fork it to fit your EU's plan of having EU digital sovereignty, and you're just mad about that. That's what's going on here. And so I'm not telling people not to use Onlyoffice. You use the Office suite that works best for you. But this is a company that seems to have a lot of sleaziness behind it. They're going after people like me for pointing out that they make weird connections to Google and Amazon just by turning it on. And I didn't come up with that out of nowhere. I was reporting on somebody else's reporting, and that's exactly what those people do. I'm not a huge researcher here. I report on the things and the findings that I stumble upon after making sure that they tend to be correct. So it seems to me here that Onlyoffice really want that benefit of being free and open source. They can point and go, we have free and open source. But if anybody actually treats their software like free and open source software in the terms to modify it or change it or things like that, they get really mad about that kind of stuff. Just make your application proprietary already. That seems to be what you want to do. So, again, I don't hate Onlyoffice. I think it has some nice, compelling points to it, particularly if you want what is right now an open source office suite with easy cloud integration. They have places you can go over to their website at Onlyoffice, is onlyoffice.com. You can go to their website at onlyoffice.com, and if you are looking for a out-of-the-box option for Microsoft Office that looks like it, feels like it, and generally works like it, you can go to their place and you can purchase some of this. There is a startup version which gives you online access to things, and up to 3 admins, unlimited users, 12 rooms, 2 gigs of storage, and that's all still free. If you want business or enterprise and you do not want to stick with Microsoft or Google products and you are looking for open source, you can use these options and pay them some money for a good solution. But what I am saying here is that they do seem to be a little sleazy on some of the things behind the scenes, and that is always something that concerns me. So let me know your thoughts about that. Are you an Onlyoffice user or not? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Which offices have you used and which ones have you settled on? That would be useful information for everybody reading the comments as well. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.